Welcome to Habitly Courses, a production of Manage to Win. Each course is divided into multiple lessons for easy viewing. All are now completely free, so you can watch them on your own or work through them as a team. Please subscribe to this channel, leave a comment, and share your favorite lessons with others. Try to find something that helps you be your best.
Hello, this is David Russell. I'm back with you now talking about workplace drama. So the key here is how to avoid it and how to resolve it, particularly when it's unnecessary drama. Now, this lesson, lesson 2, is not going to cover everything, but it's going to give you a good introduction to the approach that we need to take and things we need to be aware of. So there's 3 basic responses to conflict. Number 1, you can attack. Other people are the problem. Number 2, you can disengage. So this is contempt, but it's kind of turned inward. You're angry, but I can't deal with this. I'm out of here. Number 3 is you can relate. And this is where you focus on the situation or the problem, not the people, and you engage with others to find resolution. Notice I've got red ink for attack and disengage. That's not what I want you to strengthen or develop more skills in. I want you to develop new habits and new skills to relate to others. Now, each of these responses or reactions are energy motivators, all right? And so what happens is that when you attack, you can see the list there. You get judgmental, angry, anxious, skeptical, indignant, low productivity behaviors. In a similar way, when you do the opposite, when you disengage, you're unmotivated, you're depressed, you're negative, you're hopeless, you're isolated. Once again, low productivity. Even if this is outside the work environment, you can see how, those responses are not going to get me where I want to go. When we relate, we're respectful and typically thankful. We're cooperative. We're resourceful, figuring out how to resolve things. We're confident and we're tenacious. By the way, you know the difference between tenacious and being perseverant or persevering, okay? Persevering is you just keep going at it, okay? You run into the brick wall, you step back, you run in again. Tenacious is when you run into the brick wall and you're like, oh, I need to walk around the brick wall, or I need to catapult over the brick wall, or I need to tear down the brick wall. Tenacious is you learn from a difficult situation or mistake and you adjust to accomplish your goal. That's high productivity. What should you do? Well, there's a lot of things I'm going to recommend that you do in this course. For the moment, what I want you to think about is understand triggers that make you angry. Somebody pulls your trigger. Somebody pushes your button. Where do you have a short fuse? You may want to stop the video and talk about this now as a group. The second item here is very similar. Understand the triggers that make others angry, whether you're doing them or someone else. Number 3, understand conflict in your workplace. More than likely, it differs from work group to work group or the different people that are involved. Number 4, how do you develop and maintain a culture that avoids it? Well, first we got to know what it is and how it happens. Then we have to develop and maintain the culture that avoids it. And number 5, one of the things that can be very helpful is avoid assumptions. And then when that unnecessary drama does occur, courageously resolve it. And as always, you've heard me say this before, you're going to do it with honor, dignity, and respect for everyone involved. But you're going to be courageous. You're going to resolve it. Now, let me break this down a little bit. So if we think about the attack responses, people attack when they want to win a conflict more than preserve a relationship. That's the bottom line. I want to win. Some will immediately attack. Some attack when they cannot escape. They feel backed against a wall or in a corner. The most common attack is a verbal or physical assault. In the workplace, it's mainly going to be verbal. You also might see litigation. And basically, as you would guess, attacking is a fight response. You've heard of fight or flight? This is fight, the attack responses. When we flip over to flight, that's disengage. People disengage when they want to avoid a conflict more than resolve it. It's just too painful to deal with it right now. Or I don't have time to deal with it right now. There's denial. They might pretend it does not exist. They'll leave the conflict and they're going to focus in on themselves. And they may try to look good when, they're not. They made some mistakes or a mistake. And when I say that, sometimes simply using the wrong tone of voice is a mistake. So you need to own that piece of it. Or, maybe you made a little bit more than that. Maybe you said something you shouldn't have. Maybe you sent an email that was worded in a poor way. What piece of the puzzle do you need to own? Anyway, but the disengaging is a flight response. Now, we talked about attack, which is a fight response. We talk about disengage, which is a flight. Where do we really want to be? We want to be in the relate area. People relate when they want to shift the focus from me or you to us. With me or you, I'm pointing the finger one way or another. With us, hey, group hug. I don't want to get carried away here. But we're going to focus on the situation or the problem or the issue, not the people. How do we get this resolved? That's where you make progress. And you've got to decide on what was your responsibility in the conflict. You got to own your piece and envision how to help others take responsibility for their part. That may not be easy. Some people may just have difficulty admitting they make mistakes. But we want to decide how we can forgive and move towards a win-win. Relating avoids the fight or flight. That's where we're trying to go. We don't want to chew up productivity, work time, whatever, in fighting or flighting. Let's relate. Let's get past it. And what we want to do is we want to do what I'm calling reflecting, which leads to a response rather than a reaction, which is instantaneous and typically habit-based. Anger is a feeling and hostility is a choice. It's an attitude. I want you to consider what would happen if you committed to respond rather than react. The reaction is fight or flight. The response involves reflection and resolution. Recognize your triggers, your buttons, your short fuses. Avoid assumptions. Discuss decisions and concerns openly. Sense your reaction, that trigger. Sense it when you're starting to react. I'm going to talk a lot more about this. And then choose to respond differently. Two powerful questions you can use. I actually got this from Greg Kokel. He doesn't use it in this regard, to my knowledge. But a great way to use it is so when someone triggers you, there's a statement, there's an action, ask Columbo questions. Columbo was an old TV show, and he'd ask these two questions. Well, what do you mean by that? So you get the other person talking about what they mean while you breathe and get some control of yourself, and you listen very carefully. And then, well, how did you come to that conclusion? And really, the concept here is you shift your immediate objective from fight or flight to giving yourself time to think and hearing some additional information that gives you perspective. And it might, number two there, force that other person to reconsider their solution. Just these two simple questions. But let me give you some discussion exercises here. Once again, just some quick questions. One slide here, 3 questions. You can stop the video after each one to discuss as a group or consider it individually. Number 1, describe one of your triggers and what happens when someone treats you that way. I've got 2. I got 2 major triggers. One is that if you question my integrity and I didn't make a mistake, or I didn't at least do something intentionally, okay? And that can be a short fuse for me. You talk to me in a bad tone of voice that's condescending, and there's a question of my integrity. The second one would be pretty obvious since I have 8 kids. You go after one of my kids, and in a way that's not fair, then I can have a very short fuse. So gives you some tips, some ideas, some examples. You may want to stop the video, talk about it in the workplace or outside. What are at least one of your triggers, and what happens when someone treats you that way? The second one, describe a trigger you discovered with a client. So the client has this trigger. You didn't know it was there, but boom, you hit it, and whoa, what happened? You may want to stop the video and talk about that one or think about it. And number 3, give an example of someone potentially outside the group who has shown, number 1, an attack response, number 2, a disengage response, and number 3, a relate response. And what I'm looking for here is, how was the relate response more intentional versus instinctive? Talk about that. Think about that. And then the next slide here is the conclusion. So this is the conclusion of lesson 2. Good stuff, things to think about. Study it carefully before you take the exam. Consider these 5 questions here on, how might I apply something that was covered? Thanks for working through this one. I hope I got your wheels turning. This is great stuff because it has such an impact on your life. But this is the conclusion of lesson 2. Bye for now.